Hey guys, this is Oshi and this is going to be my VR to Kelly's from the Truth in Story 10 pieces of my soul deck. No, my soul, 10 pieces of my soul decks. I guess that's the hashtag and the title. You're gonna see that already, you're gonna see that I'm gonna title correctly everything. So I was planning on, no, that's not true. I really enjoyed watching her video and the responses to the tag and other people's souls, to be honest. But when I was originally watching the first one, I was like, I don't have 10 tarot decks that would fit into categories. Plus, I wasn't even thinking about what my soul would look like, if I would translate it into cards or decks. So I was just, enjoying watching the videos, but I wasn't thinking that I would make one. But then she made the Oracle one and I was like, you know what? I could actually put together a list or a selection from Oracles and Tarot decks and other type of decks. Plus I tweaked the categories because obviously our souls are different, and I have a substitute one because there's a deck that could be part of this tag or selection, but since it's my own and it's still in creation, I didn't want to wait. Plus I didn't want to put that in here because it's gonna come out and there's gonna be videos about it. So I was like, I just kind of felt like that would be too much, especially because I already have a deck that I made here. So it's not a complete collection or exact selection because I realized that there are kind of self of mine that are not necessarily represented in the cards or decks that I have, which was interesting. Another way to look at your collection and be like, ooh, I need more decks, which is not, no, I don't need more decks, honestly. But yeah, I have my phone, I have my list, which will be in the description down below. And yeah, I just thought that I would do it the same way that she did, like lay every card out on the table, so to speak. So it's not it's a surprise, because obviously there are decks that you shouldn't be surprised to see here. But the first one was, I kept a few, is the beginning or primary soul deck. Now, you know me, and you know that I've said that the Oak, Ash and Thorn felt like a soul deck to me, or something that was really close to that. And then the Smoke, Ash and Embers came into the picture and I was like, ah. But I have categories for those decks for later. So what I was thinking about is what deck was where I felt like not a necessarily instant connection, because I had that with multiple decks, but something that made me feel very comfortable and confident reading. And that was the Light Seer Tarot. It's a reliable one, and I hate how the cards always fell out because if you ever read the guidebook, it's gonna just doesn't close flat, and then the cards keep falling out, which I hate. I still need to make a pouch like this one, but I just don't have it's not necessarily the time, it's just I keep forgetting doing it. So the first one is, and I'm just gonna show you a few cards if you don't know. I mean, it's a very popular one. I bet that this was featured on people's overrated decks as well, because you keep hearing that this is a great deck, but it's a great deck for me. Obviously there are people, and this is one of my favorite, if not my favorite, High Priestess. This was the deck that I got after I learned how to read tarot and didn't connect with the deck that I learned on. And interesting that the other one, because I bought two decks when I was like, oh, there are other decks than what I had, and the regular RWS. Yeah, little did I know. Fool. And then I bought two decks, and this was one of them, and I just connected pretty much immediately, and it was such an uplifting experience reading with it. especially coming from a deck that I just didn't really know what I was feeling about. What happened to the corner? And you know what I wanted out of a deck, and this was an instant connection. This is one of those decks that will never leave my connection. And if I didn't had any more decks than this one, I would have been happy. Obviously, it doesn't work like that, but you know, maybe that does you, or perhaps you understand why this is my primary soul deck. It's not, none of these are more important than the other. You know, these are pieces of me or my soul. So obviously, sometimes part of them get more highlight, or you know, just light shadow on them. They get more importance because I'm just dealing with that part of my soul. But it doesn't mean that, you know, either of these decks or parts of my soul are more important than the other. Okay, the next one was the astrological sign, and I'm an Aquarius sun, and I went with that. And it was interesting to see that I don't really have a tarot deck that would fit how I perceive what being an Aquarius means. And that for me is a deck where I would look at it and I would start thinking all those things, because there I have decks where I'm just going with intuition, but I'm pulling or drawing from my emotions more. But with an Aquarius deck, it would be something that, you know, it's a philosophical deck, or I don't know, like I said, I don't really have a deck like that where I'm not going with the meanings primary. Those are emotional decks for me. So yeah, I don't have something that would make me think in a way that's, I don't want to say it's outside of the box, because there are decks that make me do that, and they have a system that's not necessarily the usual RWS. So I don't know if, you know, I can make sense of what I'm thinking. But what I picked was the Angelarium. These are not the Oracle, because to be honest, ever since I got these playing card versions, I don't think, maybe I use them in big readings, you know, just to use them. But I was lucky enough to buy year and two, which are still sold on the website, and there's a summer sale. I think I've seen the email recently, so check it out if you want it. It has all the cards that are in the Oracle, just, you know, in tiny playing card size, which kind of annoying sometimes because you want to see the artwork like this big, or at least me. But you also have some information on the back. Sometimes it's in a language I don't understand, but okay. And these are extra other kind of cards, but you have angels, obviously, and emanations of glory. You have all the, you know, the, oh god, what's this, you know, when you want to say something and the word escapes you. Tree of life, that was thinking. You know, you have different artwork for that, and there are multiple versions, because for example for Hod there is the one that was in the what it's called, the Oracle, the Oracle, and there are other versions, the painted ones that were included in this version. And and that's why I wanted it, because this deck has the astrological signs, and I missed out on the print because he was offering it on Patreon when I discovered Patreon, and there was like that he had a Patreon, and there was like 3 days till the month was off, and I just didn't have the money to go and become a Patreon and have access to this print. So I was like, okay. But look at that Leo. For me, even though these are angels, they represent angels and non-human creations in a way that I can be like, yeah, I can see that this is real, you know, that something like this walks around in a different dimension, you know. not necessarily where we see them. But look at the Angels of Mysteries with the pages as a wing. This definitely connected to my I don't want to say intellect because it sounds like I'm just like some asshole, pretentious asshole. But I didn't get feelings out of this deck when I first started using the Oracle. And it's kind of funny that I have the first three that I bought ever, all of them are part of this. So that's kind of interesting. So it still represents a realm where my mind is more dominant than my feelings. If this makes any sense, it does to me, but you know, it's sometimes really hard to translate what I'm trying to say into words. That's why I love writing and editing, because you can edit the shit out of what you're writing. Next one is the liminal self, and how I would. When I think about what liminal means to me, I always think about something kind of sad as well. You know, people go to die. Not people, not just people. Things go to die into the liminal space. I know that it sounds, you know, maybe depressing or just weird, or I don't know. It makes sense to me, and I know I'm wary of this space, but it has that, you know, sense of sadness because things are ending there. They can, you know, be created obviously, and there's connection to be made in the liminal space with something that is not necessarily part of our everyday life. But for me, liminal space kind of have that tone. And I know that I keep talking about this deck, but for a reason. This is a great deck. And if you read the Tarot of the Little Prince, or if you watched my walkthrough of it, when I was a child and I read the story, all I remembered, all I was able to understand that it was sad. You know, it made me sad, but I didn't understand why. I didn't really understood the story. And when I saw when I saw this deck on someone's channel, I can't remember where, to be honest. And I've seen, okay, can I find the lovers? And I've seen the cards. I was like, no, I want this. I don't know why, but I immediately wanted it. And then I reread the story itself, and it's a short story. It made me cry. I'm not gonna be, you know, oh, look at the strength. Yeah, I'm not gonna, you know, be like, I was too strong and I'm not crying. Bullshit. It made me cry, and look at that lovers with the rose and the prince. Yeah, it's just the perfect and most beautiful lovers card ever. What did I wanted to say? Oh yeah, so now I was able to understand much more, and it just even made me even more sad in a way. But sometimes you need that kind of sadness, and if I would want to work with that energy of the liminal space, which I'm not in a mental, emotional, or whatever space right now to do, but I know that it will come. I kind of feel like that there's gonna come a time soon. It sounds like ooh, but no. Just, you know, I have, especially because it's autumn, when I want to work more on things that I haven't dealt with, past trauma, emotions, wishes, and dreams that I died because certain things happened. And that's not gonna be an easy thing to do, but I will have decks like this that will kind of be, in a way, a comfort blanket, if this makes any sense. I don't know if I'm making sense. Do let me know, obviously. But yeah, like I said, it's a sadness that I think it's the needed sadness that you, after a while, when you grow up or start growing up, a part of your soul is going to die. And there's gonna be a sadness in its place. And I think that the liminal space and that sadness is that part of, for me. And I swear it's not depressing. Okay, the next one, why do I don't want to edit this. The next one was the Fae self, and how I look at the Fae is they are the extension, the part that communicates with humans of nature. So when I think about the Fae, I don't think about them just as the guardians of nature and Mother Earth and all the earthly energy, and like really outwardly. I think about them as a chance to communicate with nature, and how they appear or what do you think, if they even there or not, is not necessarily, or most of the time it's not like fairies running around and stealing your, I don't know, shoes or silver rings. I do think that part of nature that can interact with humans can be cruel and sometimes maybe even revengeful, but not in a human kind of way. It's when someone is pestering you and it's causing you harm. After a while you stand up for yourself and you get rid of it, and I kind of feel like nature is doing that with us, because if you think about it, what we do with nature, we completely deserve that in a big scale. Obviously not on an everyday, day-to-day, people by people basis. It's not a blanket statement, but on a big one, as in humanity versus nature, we freaking deserve what we get. We don't respect the place where we live. We don't try to work with it. We pretend we're not part of it and all that bullshit. So yeah, getting off my box. This is the Hidden Realm. I haven't really worked with the deck because it requires time to study it. I don't just want to start pulling cards and be like, oh, this is the Hermit, so I'm gonna just apply the usual Hermit meaning for it. I want to read the guidebook, and I also want to do it so it's gonna turn into like a study, at least for a month or something like that, when I have time to schedule and to do that. I love this King of Pentacles. I have a really good a YA fantasy series with Fae by Holy Black. I can't remember. I think it's the Airfolk trilogy or something like that. The first one is called Cruel Prince. So if you like really well written love stories, because that was a really good love story, like from enemies to lovers, but in a great way, not in a, oh, they hate each other so they're gonna love each other. That's gonna happen, but you cannot see that at all. To be honest, I wasn't even sure it's gonna happen at the beginning. But that book has such a strong Fae energy for me. Obviously it's full of Fae, and it's the cruel and beautiful kind, because that's what Fae is. But it also deals with being part of that world and being an outsider of that world, how you interact with that energy, I think, really nicely. Even if, that was not the intention. For me, that was a very strong introductory connection to the energy of the Fae and how I see and feel this energy works. So yeah, I realized that I really wanted to have a connection to that part of myself, because it was always there, I just didn't know. And this deck represents that energy really nicely. Okay, next one, no surprise. Are you surprised you're not a subscriber? So go ahead and subscribe, like this video, and comment down below. Because this is my dragon self. And this is the Smoke Ash and Embers. And if I would choose a primary soul deck, then this would be it, because dragons. But ever since I was a few years old, to be honest, there was a Hungarian it's kind of like a puppet show. Oh yeah, sure. But it's more animated puppetry. It's about a dragon, what I'm trying to say. And I grew up watching that, and I don't know, I always believed dragons are real. You know, and I always loved reading fantasy books, and I just don't care who thinks I'm crazy for, look at that, for believing that, and who doesn't. That's the part that I'm unapologetically, I just don't give a shit. And this is, you know, this deck represents the dragons, even though these are not necessarily my favorite ones, you know, the cups and yeah, I think that's just the cups. The pentacles, they are kind of pushing that limit, but the wands and the swords are perfect. They are perfection. They look, and obviously the majors, they look how I imagine dragons look. And this deck, hence, look at the High Priestess, just represents my dragon self. And I love this. This card that I left it in, this is the extra I always interpret as a message from the divine and stuff like that, you know, connection to something bigger than us, because dragons are like that. So yeah, this is my dragon self with the perfect dragon deck, and I can't even tell you how good it feels that I don't need another dragon deck, and I can easily and confidently say that ever since I got this deck, there has been a few other dragon decks coming out, and I've seen them, and I wasn't even a tiny bit like, ooh, I need that because dragons. I was like, no, I'm good. I'm not saying there's not gonna be decks where I feel like the illustration is beautiful and I would really like it. I just wouldn't need that deck as a dragon deck because I have that completely fulfilled, which is like an amazing, because that's pretty much the only category in every kind of category or categorization that I have. Okay, next one is the storyteller self, which is a self that I had from the beginning and I didn't know, and I pushed it down, and I told myself that I wasn't good enough to tell stories, because when I was growing up, what information came through from media and interviews, it was like, if you're a storyteller, and I mean you're an author, you sit down, you write a book in a few months and it's done, and you do it in one go. You maybe research at the beginning, but then you sit down and you write it and it's perfection, and it goes to the editors and they love it and you get published. Now I know more. Now I know the wonderful thing that editing can add to a story, and adds usually to the story. And I wholeheartedly disagree that only talented people should write, because everybody should write, because we all have stories that we should tell. And whether to, you know, get published or just have that story, your story, out on paper, or in this case in a deck, I don't know what I wanted to say with the sentence. You know, it just depends on you. Not all of us needs to be a published author, but I think we all have a story to tell, and we can all learn how to tell that better. And part of it, why I really enjoy creating a deck, which I think I completely forgot to say that the one that that this one was the placeholder, because there's questions oracle that's coming that I am creating in a way that I look at the image and I'm asking questions, and that's what Aquarius means to me, and I completely forgot to say that. What else? But the storyteller part is, and this is the zombie oracle, the first one. The second one is on its way. I made this deck like a zombie TV show, so it's not the gory, ooh, zombies are, I mean, some parts are, but it's about experiencing what it would be when zombies are coming and how would you react. And I really had so much fun creating the guidebook and writing the little, you know, descriptions for the cards and creating the cards. I just really love that. And Utopia, which is the second one, is something similar. I haven't written the guidebook yet, it's in the making. one of my favorite cards ever. It's just another way of me to tell stories, and with the decks that I create, even if, you know, I'm making them available for other people, but I'm creating them for myself primarily and firstly, because I enjoy doing that. And I never imagined, you know, creating decks, but I think that that ties into that need that I have, that I want to and I need to tell stories. And yeah, a deck box. And yeah, it's my homemade box for it, you know, because zombies tried to get into, but they couldn't. So yeah, that's my storyteller self, which is a much bigger one that I, you know, ever let it become or begin or whatever. But it's a part of me that I wish I could have acknowledged and worked with sooner. Obviously, everything happens for a reason, but you know, that's something that I wish. Okay, the next one is the healer self, and how I looked at it is which deck that I used to heal myself, and that was the StarDragons Oracle. And I talked about it in the 6 months in or few months in video, where I take a deck and talk about more of my long-term experience and how useful and healing this deck was for me, which was a surprise. I like the dragons in it, but you know, they're not exactly like those dragons. But I never imagined how encouraging and just supportive this deck can be. But it is, and it was, and I should use it more often still. And this was pretty much the card and word that I chose for the word of the year as well, and I chose that from this deck. And yeah, I think it's, you know, it's a very healing deck, and it showed me a different way of how to deal with difficulties, which I'm very grateful, because A, it was useful for me, and two, I can use that method to help other people. Okay, only 3 left. And the next one was the Mystic Witchy self. This is a very tiny self of me. I'm still just tiptoeing around the woods, so to speak, but I'm kind of finding the way that I'm the path that I need to follow, and I'm kind of getting more confident about call that my own path, which is sometimes can be very hard because there's a lot of gatekeeping in the spiritual community, for good or bad reason. That's, you know, a debate for another video. But yeah, there are, you know, hurdles that I need to get over that were placed there by people that might not need to, because they shouldn't, but whatever. This is not the let's bitch about people video. And I have to for this one, because the Wild Unknown, and I have the pocket edition, is representing the energy and a form of this energy that I have for this category, that is accessible for my current or the current version of this self. That's how I'm gonna say it. This is a very not simple. It's not a simple deck, but this draws in that folk energy, folk magical witchy energy that I want to work with. Interestingly, because I didn't think it would. It doesn't necessarily, even though, and yeah, it's a wild unknown, and I have the Wildwood. It's all the wild things, you know. It's that wild energy that I kind of feel like I will work with in a way that I can, you know, work with it currently. Because the deck that I probably end up having for this one, this self, is the Wild Unknown. No, it's not. It's the Wildwood. But and you can see I started working with that's why these three are on top of it, on the top. This was my second deck. You know, I bought the Light Seers and the Wildwood together. They were my first decks, and I didn't do the work. You know, didn't study the system, didn't went through the whole thing back then, and I not since. But I started finally. At least I made a few, you know, notes. It's gonna take some time, and I don't, you know, this is not a deck that I just want to start using willy-nilly and pretend that the RWS is gonna be the one. Look at that shot. You know, I don't want to pull in the meanings for the chariot for the archer because it's different. It has that forward moving motion, but I don't know the other side of this card, for example. Oh, and I don't want to mix it. Okay, I forgot that I already, you know, sorted it out so I can easily at least work with these. So just gonna show you it like this. Hello, longmeadow. So this is going to be the one I think that will be used for that folk magic energy. And part of the reason why I wanted it because, you know, I don't feel connection to anything that I'm coming from, like the Hungarian roots and the shamanistic and animistic, maybe animistic, that's the English, ways of the old ones here. I feel the connection somewhere else, but it's quite similar. So it wasn't, you know, like, ooh, I never seen anything that connects to shamanism or anything like that. It's part of the old Hungarian ways. So, you know, it's not just for certain people and certain cultures. My culture is part of, use that energy as well. You know, all the spiritual gatekeeping and all the shit. But when I was coming into reading tarot, I wasn't coming out of university, but what I enjoyed studying at university, it was Korean shamanism. And this image was just like, oh, you know, pulling that back in. So yeah, this is going to be there, but like I said, this is a very underdeveloped part of me right now. Okay, and probably people will have a problem with what I said, but I just don't care. The next one is the future world self, and I don't have a deck because that's gonna happen in the future. One day I will create my sci-fi deck, which is gonna be 2 decks actually, but whatever. I need to learn to, you know, draw and paint better, much better for that. So that's not existing yet. So the other sci-fi deck that I have is a bit too much in the Pentacles area, so I chose the Shadow Word deck. This is a storytelling deck, so it's not an oracle per se. It's not, you know, definitely not a tarot deck. These are huge, like coaster thick cards that you can put together in any sort of order, and it can come up with stories. And even though it's more shadowy than how I would like to see the future, sometimes it has images that are not as, you know, doom and gloom, so to speak. They are interesting. And this could have been in the storytelling as well, but it's more about the sci-fi element. Plus I wanted a deck that I created in that category. So yeah, this is a very interesting one, and you can definitely use it as an oracle because you pull a card. Look at that, a dark moon, a pyramid of some sort, and a zebra amongst a bunch of pipes. What does it mean? Like, it can mean anything. It can mean how spiritual guides appear, how abstract our thinking is, and maybe you need to make more sense of the world around you, you know, like that. So there's a lot of things in here that are really interesting. And yeah, the little witch with the skeleton friend. I like her. That's a little witch. So yeah, that fits there currently. And the last one, oh, I forgot to put this one back. And the last one is the card, I think it was the Cartomancer herself. And I was really thinking about, like which deck would I pick here? And I was first thinking about which deck I'm using the most, something like the Light Seers, or maybe it's my soul deck, soul deck, it's the Smoke Ash and Thorn. But then I was thinking about, I want to pick a deck that represents me as a reader. And when I do readings, I don't bullshit people, but I'm just switching into that in a more gentle mode. I don't know. I'm not snarky or ironic in my readings, which I really enjoy in other people's, It's just not me. I'm more in the energy of the Oak Ash and Smoke, that's a different one. Oak Ash and Thorn. Okay, why do I have this one? Oh, okay, I don't know why. There is a... Oh, okay. For some reason there were 3 cards the other way around. Probably did a reading and didn't put them back. So let's just, mix things up. So this is a very, very gentle deck. But it's not bullshitting you. You will see the messages that you need to see. You will get the messages that you need to get. But it's not gonna bitch slap you while you do the reading. And I really enjoy that. I think this is the gentle but firm energy. And I would like to think so that when I'm doing readings, I'm embodying that energy. So yeah, all the queens. That's why I chose the Oak Ash and Thorn. What did I do with, like, how did I shuffle this deck? Oh, look at the 2 of Cups, the Empress and everyone. Oh yeah, the Tower. I don't want to see the Tower, so not right now, at least. So yeah, the tactile feeling of the deck is the same. It's a very gentle and it's soft but firm cardstock, if this makes any sense. And I just love the sound of it when it does that. It's not that sharp. So it can be a little bit like a blanket, but it's definitely, not gonna shy away from what you need to see and what you need to hear. So yeah, that's my idealistic version, I guess, of myself as a reader. But I'm good with that. I don't want to be anything else, to be honest. I feel comfortable being or reading the way that I do. I'm not saying it's never gonna change. I'm just saying that I'm good with that's, happening. Well, yeah, I'm not gonna try to put it back right now. You're gonna have this tiny 9 of Pentacles here. So yeah, these are the decks. Let's put this one here. For some reason I don't want to put it on the face of the card. I kind of feel like that's rude. So these are the 10 pieces of my soul. Hope you liked it. Hope it was interesting and not too, controversial. But I think there are topics anyway that we should talk about more, because there's a lot of, let's not talk about anything because someone might get hurt going around, which I think it's not good, because there are topics, even if they are painful, we need to talk about, because that's how we can connect, that's how we can understand each other, and that's how we can make actual changes. So yeah, okay, so please like, subscribe, comment down below what's your 10 pieces of soul decks if you haven't done a VR to Cali. I usually every once in a while either YouTube suggests a video to me, or I just click on the hashtag and check videos because I really enjoy watching these. So thank you, Kelly, for creating it, and everyone else, and you too as well, obviously. Have a wonderful day, the best one possible. See you in the next one. Bye.